Tonight, a woman will be thrown into the wilderness to die. Her crime? Being too weak to matter. Her secret? She's the only reason her pack survived this long. They call her a burden. They don't know she's been bleeding herself dry to keep them alive. This is the story of Arden Vale, the wolf they cast out on the worst night of her life, and the power they never saw coming. Stay until the end to see how an outcast becomes the one thing survival depends on. And if you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments. I want to know where this story finds you. Hit that like button, because this one's going to hurt before it heals. The rain came down like punishment. Arden stood in the center of the gathering circle, water streaming down her face, her clothes already soaked through to the skin. The pack surrounded her. 70, maybe 80 wolves in human form, their eyes gleaming in the firelight that sputtered and hissed under the downpour. Some watched with pity, most with indifference, a few with something worse, relief. She kept her chin up. That much she could do. Arden Vale, Alpha Garrick's voice cut through the storm like a blade. He stood on the raised platform at the north end of the circle, his broad shoulders draped in the dark pelt that marked his rank. His face was all hard angles, no warmth, never warmth. You've been given every chance, every opportunity to prove your worth to this pack. Arden's jaw tightened. Worth, that word again. You're weak, Garrick continued, his tone flat, clinical. You can't hunt, you can't fight. You contribute nothing to our survival. In times of plenty, we carry the weak. But winter is coming. Food is scarce, and I will not risk this pack's future on dead weight. Dead weight. Someone in the crowd murmured agreement. Arden didn't look to see who. You are cast out, Garrick said, effective immediately. You have until dawn to leave our territory. If you return, you will be killed. The words landed like stones in her chest, but Arden didn't flinch. She'd known this was coming. She'd felt it building for weeks. The sideways glances, the conversations that stopped when she entered a room, the way people stopped bothering to include her in anything that mattered. She was 26 years old and she'd spent her entire life in this pack. She'd grown up here, played in these woods as a child, learned to shift under these same trees, and now they were throwing her out like trash. Do you have anything to say? Garrick asked. It wasn't a real question. He didn't care. Arden looked at him, really looked, and saw nothing. No regret, no second thoughts, just cold pragmatism. She could tell him the truth. She could explain what she'd been doing all these years, the secret she'd kept, the price she'd paid. She could make them understand. But they wouldn't believe her, and even if they did, it wouldn't change anything. No, she said quietly. I don't. Garrick nodded as if that settled it. Then go. The circle parted. A gap opened in the crowd, leading toward the eastern border, toward the wild lands beyond the pack's protection, toward exile. Arden took a breath, tasting rain and smoke, and started walking. No one said goodbye. What? She made it to the tree line before her knees buckled. Arden caught herself against a pine trunk, her hand slipping on wet bark, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. The rain was heavier here, drumming against the canopy above, and the cold was seeping into her bones. Not yet. She couldn't break yet. She forced herself upright and kept moving, pushing deeper into the forest. Behind her, the lights of the pack settlement faded, swallowed by darkness and distance. Ahead, there was nothing but trees and shadows and the unknown. And something else. Arden felt it before she saw it, a familiar pressure in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Her pulse quickened, her skin prickled. It was here. She stopped walking and closed her eyes, reaching inward for the thing she'd kept hidden for so long. It came easily now, rising to the surface like a breath she'd been holding. A warmth spread through her chest, then down her arms, pooling in her palms. When she opened her eyes, her hands were glowing. Soft, silvery light spilled from her skin, illuminating the rain-soaked forest around her. It looked delicate, almost gentle. It wasn't. Arden lifted her hands and pushed. The light surged outward in a wave, rippling through the air like water disturbed by a stone. It spread fast, faster than she could see, rushing past trees and rocks and shadows until it formed a shimmering barrier, a dome of light stretching back toward the pack's territory. The pressure in the air eased, the invisible thing hunting them retreated, repelled by the light. For now. Arden lowered her hands. The glow faded, sinking back beneath her skin, and exhaustion hit her like a physical blow. She swayed, catching herself against another tree, her vision swimming. Every time she did this, it took more. Every barrier cost her a little more strength, a little more life. She'd been doing it for 3 years, and she could feel the toll it had taken. The constant fatigue, the way her body seemed lighter, frailer, like she was slowly burning away from the inside. But she'd kept them safe. That had to count for something, even if they never knew. Arden pushed off the tree and kept walking. She didn't have a plan. She didn't have supplies. She had the clothes on her back and a power that was killing her by inches. It would have to be enough. But she walked through the night. The storm stayed with her, relentless and cold. The forest grew denser, the trees older and thicker, their roots twisting across the ground like serpents. Arden stumbled more than once, catching herself at the last second, her hands scraped raw from grabbing at bark and stone. By the time the first gray light of dawn touched the sky, she was shaking, not from cold, though she was freezing, but from exhaustion. The barrier she'd raised had drained her more than usual. She could feel the pull of it, even now, miles away, siphoning energy she didn't have to spare. She needed to rest, just for a few minutes. Arden spotted a fallen tree, its massive trunk hollowed out by time and rot, and crawled inside. The space was cramped and damp, but it was shelter. She curled into a ball, tucking her hands under her arms, and closed her eyes. Sleep came fast, and so did the dreams. She was 12 again, standing in the training yard while the other young wolves sparred around her. She was small for her age, skinny and awkward, and when it was her turn to fight, she lost. Badly. Pathetic, the instructor said, shaking his head. You're not even trying. But she was. She was trying as hard as she could. It just wasn't enough. The dream shifted. She was 16, sitting alone in the common hall while the rest of the pack celebrated a successful hunt. No one had invited her. No one had thought to save her a seat. She wasn't part of anything. She never had been. The dream shifted again. She was 19 and the thing had come for the first time. She'd been walking the border alone because she was always alone when she felt it, a wrongness in the air, a pressure that made her teeth ache and her skin crawl. And then she'd seen it. Not it exactly. She'd never seen the thing itself. But she'd seen what it did. A deer frozen mid-step, its body twisted at an unnatural angle, its eyes wide and glassy, like it had died of terror. And around it, the air shimmered, bent, as if something invisible was moving through it. Arden had run. She'd run straight back to the pack and told the alpha what she'd seen. He'd sent scouts. They'd found nothing. No body, no tracks, no evidence. They'd looked at her like she was crazy. So when it happened again, when she felt that same pressure, saw that same shimmer, she didn't tell anyone. She handled it herself. She didn't know where the power came from. It had just appeared. One moment she was terrified, and the next, light was pouring from her hands, forming a wall between her and the invisible thing. It had worked. The thing retreated. So she did it again, and again. For 3 years, she raised barriers in secret, keeping the thing at bay, protecting a pack that didn't even know it needed protecting. Until tonight. Arden woke with a gasp, her heart hammering. The hollow log was darker now. Full night had fallen while she slept. She crawled out, her body aching, and stood on shaky legs. The forest was quiet, too quiet. She felt it immediately, the pressure, closer than before. Her hands began to glow before she even thought about it, instinct overriding exhaustion. She raised a barrier, smaller this time, just around herself, and the light flared bright in the darkness. The pressure pushed against it, hard. Arden gritted her teeth, pouring more energy into the barrier, and the light intensified. For a moment it held. Then something inside her snapped. Not broke, snapped, like a thread pulled too tight, finally giving way. The barrier flickered and collapsed. The light vanished. Arden fell to her knees, gasping, her vision going dark at the edges. She tried to summon the power again, reaching for it desperately, but there was nothing. She was empty. The pressure moved closer. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it, circling her, curious, patient. This was it then. This was how it ended. Arden closed her eyes and waited. The attack didn't come. Instead, she heard footsteps. Her eyes snapped open. A figure emerged from the trees, a man, tall and broad-shouldered, moving with the easy confidence of someone who knew these woods. He stopped a few feet away, his gaze sharp and assessing. "You're the one they cast out," he said. Not a question. Arden stared at him. She knew him, Ronan Cross. He was a tracker, one of the pack's best. Quiet, competent, and loyal to a fault. She'd never spoken to him. He ran with the hunters, and she didn't. "What are you doing here?" she managed. "Looking for you." He crouched down, bringing himself to eye level. "You need to get up. Something's wrong with the forest tonight. I've been tracking, I don't know what, but it's dangerous." Arden almost laughed. Dangerous. If he only knew. "I can't," she said. "I'm done. Just go back. Forget you saw me." Ronan frowned. "You're coming with me." "No." She shook her head. "I'm not your problem." "Too bad." He reached for her arm, and the moment his hand touched her skin, the pressure surged. Ronan jerked back, his eyes wide. What the hell was that? Arden's hands flared with light, weak, flickering, but there. The barrier reformed around them, fragile as glass. Ronan stared at her. What are you?" "Keeping you alive," Arden said through gritted teeth. The barrier was already cracking. She didn't have enough left to hold it. Ronan looked from her glowing hands to the shimmer in the air beyond the light. His expression shifted, confusion giving way to understanding, then something harder. "How long?" he asked. 3 years. "And no one knows." "No one would believe me." The barrier shattered. Ronan moved fast, grabbing Arden and pulling her to her feet. "Run," he said. She didn't have the strength to argue. They ran. They didn't make it far. Arden's legs gave out within 50 yards, and she hit the ground hard, her hands scraping against stone. Ronan doubled back, hauling her up again, but she was dead weight now, barely conscious. "Stay with me," he said, his voice sharp. "Arden, stay awake." She tried. She really did, but the darkness was pulling her down, and she was so tired. The last thing she remembered was Ronan's arms around her, and the faint glow of her own light flickering one last time before it went out completely. When she woke, she was moving, not walking, being carried. Arden blinked, disoriented, and realized she was slung over Ronan's shoulder, her head bouncing against his back with every step. "Put me down," she mumbled. "No. I'm fine." "You passed out." "I'm fine now." Ronan stopped walking and carefully lowered her to the ground. Arden swayed, grabbing his arm for balance, and looked around. They were still in the forest, but the trees were different here, younger, thinner, and in the distance she could see light. Not her light. Firelight. "Where are we?" she asked. "Neutral ground," Ronan said. "There's a settlement about a mile ahead, small, independent. They'll let us stay the night." "Us?" He looked at her like she was an idiot. "You think I'm leaving you out here alone?" "You should. Garrick can rot." Ronan's voice was flat, final. "I saw what you did back there. I don't know what that thing was, but I know you stopped it. And I know the pack has no idea how close they've come to dying." Arden stared at him. "You believe me. I saw it." It was such a simple statement, but it hit her harder than anything else that night. Someone believed her. Someone had seen. She didn't realize she was crying until Ronan's expression softened. "Come on," he said quietly. "Let's get you somewhere warm." "What?" The settlement was smaller than she'd expected. Maybe 20 buildings clustered around a central square, all rough wood and practical design. People moved between them, carrying supplies, tending fires, living their lives. No one looked twice at Arden and Ronan as they passed. Outsiders, she realized. This place was used to them. Ronan led her to a small cabin on the edge of the settlement and knocked. A moment later, the door opened, revealing a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled back in a braid. "Ronan," she said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Need a place to stay, Mara, just for the night." Mara's gaze flicked to Arden, taking in her soaked clothes and exhausted face. She looks half dead. She's had a rough night. Haven't we all? Mara stepped aside, gesturing them in. Get her by the fire. I'll make tea. The cabin was warm and cluttered, every surface covered with books, maps, and odd bits of salvaged junk. Arden sank into a chair by the fireplace and closed her eyes, letting the heat soak into her skin. She heard Ronan and Mara talking in low voices across the room, but she didn't listen. She was too tired to care. When she opened her eyes again, Mara was crouched in front of her, holding out a steaming mug. Drink, the older woman said. It'll help. Arden took the mug and sipped. The tea was bitter, herbal, and almost immediately she felt a little steadier. Thank you, she said. Mara nodded and stood, turning to Ronan. So, what's the real story? Ronan glanced at Arden. She gave a tiny shake of her head. Later, he said. Mara raised an eyebrow but didn't push. Fine, you two can stay as long as you need, but if there's trouble following you, I want to know. There might be, Ronan admitted. Of course there is. Mara sighed. There always is. Arden slept for 14 hours straight. When she finally woke, it was mid-afternoon and the cabin was empty except for Ronan, who sat at the table sharpening a knife. How do you feel? He asked without looking up. Like I got hit by a truck. Arden sat up slowly, wincing. Everything hurt. Where's Mara? Out. She'll be back later. Ronan set the knife down and turned to face her. We need to talk. About what? About what you can do, and what's been hunting the pack. Arden's stomach twisted. I don't know what it is. I've never seen it clearly. But you've been stopping it. Trying to. For 3 years. Yes. Ronan leaned back, his expression unreadable. And it's killing you. It wasn't a question, but Arden answered anyway. Yes. Does it have to? She blinked. What? Does it have to kill you? Ronan asked. Or is there another way? Arden opened her mouth, then closed it. She'd never thought about it like that. The power had always been instinctive, reactive. She used it when she had to, and it cost what it cost. I don't know, she admitted. Then we figure it out. Ronan stood, crossing to the window. Because that thing isn't gone. I can feel it. And if it's been following the pack for 3 years, it's not going to stop just because you're not there anymore. Arden's chest tightened. They'll be fine. The barriers I set should last a few more weeks. And then? She didn't have an answer. Ronan turned back to her, his gaze steady. You don't owe them anything, Arden. They cast you out. But if you want to help them anyway, I'll help you. And if you want to let them burn, I'll help you with that too. Something in Arden's chest cracked open. Not broke. Opened. Like a door she'd kept locked for years. I don't want them to die, she said quietly. But I don't want to die either. Then we find a third option. Mara returned at dusk, carrying a bag of supplies and a grim expression. We've got a problem, she said, dumping the bag on the table. Ronan straightened. What kind? The kind where people are talking about strange lights in the forest and things that shouldn't be moving. Mara looked at Arden. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Arden's stomach sank. It's here? Something is. Mara pulled out a chair and sat. 3 people have gone missing in the last 2 days. No bodies, no tracks. Just gone. Same as the deer, Arden murmured. What deer? Mara asked. Ronan filled her in, keeping it brief. When he finished, Mara was silent for a long moment. So you're telling me, she said slowly, that there's an invisible monster hunting people, and the only thing stopping it is a woman who glows in the dark. That's about the size of it, Ronan said. Mara laughed. It was a short, sharp sound, edged with disbelief. Of course. Why not? She looked at Arden. Can you stop it here? I can try, Arden said. But I'm weaker than I was. I don't know how long I can hold it. Then we'd better figure out what it is, Mara said, because I'm not letting it take anyone else. Yes. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Mara, it turned out, was a scholar of sorts, a collector of stories, myths, and old knowledge. Her cabin was crammed with books on folklore, history, and things most people had forgotten. She pulled out everything she had on invisible threats, unexplained disappearances, and creatures that fed on fear. Ronan, meanwhile, focused on the practical. He scouted the perimeter, mapping the places where people had vanished, looking for patterns. And Arden rested, or tried to. But every time she closed her eyes, she felt the pull of the barriers she'd left behind, still drawing on her strength, even from miles away. On the third day, Mara found something. "Look at this," she said, spreading an old map across the table. It was hand-drawn, faded with age, and covered in symbols Arden didn't recognize. This area used to be sacred ground. Long before our pack settled here, there were other people. They called this region the Hollow Lands. "Why?" Ronan asked. "Because something lived here, something that existed between spaces, between the physical and the not. They called it the Riftwalker." Mara tapped the map. According to the stories, it was drawn to strong emotions. Fear, mostly. It fed on it. Arden felt a chill run down her spine. "How do you stop it?" "You don't," Mara said. "You ward it off, keep it at bay, which is exactly what you've been doing." "But the wards were supposed to be permanent," Ronan said, "built by people who knew what they were doing. Why would it come back now?" Mara hesitated. The wards might have weakened, or broken. It's been centuries, or, she glanced at Arden, someone's power might have called to it. Arden's blood ran cold. "You think I summoned it?" "Not intentionally," Mara said quickly. "But your light, it's the same kind of energy the old wards used. If the Riftwalker sensed it, it might have been drawn to you." "So I made it worse," Arden said, her voice hollow. "No." Ronan's voice was sharp. "You kept people alive. That's not making it worse." But Arden wasn't sure. If her power had attracted the thing in the first place, then every person it killed was on her. "There has to be a way to stop it," she said. "Permanently." Mara flipped through another book. "There might be." The old texts mentioned a final ward, a seal that would trap the Riftwalker completely. But it required a massive amount of power, and once it was set, it couldn't be undone. "How much power?" Arden asked. Mara met her gaze. More than one person could survive giving. Us. That night, Arden stood at the edge of the settlement and raised her hands. The light came slower than before, flickering like a candle in the wind. She shaped it into a barrier, stretching it around the settlement's perimeter, and felt the familiar drain begin. She'd been doing this for days now, reinforcing the barrier every few hours, and it was taking everything she had. Behind her, she heard footsteps. "You can't keep this up," Ronan said quietly. "I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Arden let the barrier fade and turned to face him. "If I stop, people die. If you don't stop, you die. Then I die." The words came out sharper than she intended. "At least it'll mean something." Ronan's jaw tightened. "You think dying for people who wouldn't do the same for you means something?" "It's not about them," Arden said. "It's about me. I can help, so I do. Even if it kills you. Especially then." They stood in silence, the night air cold around them. Finally, Ronan spoke. "There's another way." Mara said, "I know what Mara said, but what if you're not alone? What if someone else carries part of the cost?" Arden stared at him. "That's not how it works." "How do you know?" "Because I've never—" She stopped. He was right. She'd never tried. She'd always assumed her power was hers alone, that no one else could touch it. But what if that was wrong? "I don't know if it's possible," she said slowly. "Then let's find out." They practiced the next morning, far from the settlement where no one would see. Arden summoned her light, letting it pool in her hands, and Ronan reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the glow, he jerked back with a hiss. "It burns," he said. "I'm sorry." "No. Try again." They tried again, and again. Each time the light burned him, and each time he refused to give up. On the fifth attempt, something shifted. Ronan's hand stayed in the light, and instead of burning, it began to glow. Faintly, like a reflection, but there. Arden's eyes widened. "Can you feel it?" "Yeah?" Ronan's voice was strained. It's pulling, like it wants something. Let it, Arden said. Don't fight it. He exhaled slowly, and the glow in his hand brightened. Arden felt the drain on her lessen, not by much, but enough to notice. They were sharing it. How do you feel? She asked. Tired, Ronan admitted. But fine. You? Better. Arden looked at their glowing hands, still connected by the light. This might actually work. They told Mara that night. It's risky, the older woman said, frowning. You're talking about linking two people through a power we barely understand. If something goes wrong, it won't, Ronan said. You don't know that. No, but we're out of options. Mara looked at Arden. Is this what you want? Arden thought about the settlement, about the people who'd welcomed them without question, about Ronan, who'd risked everything to find her. Yes, she said. Then I'll help you. The Riftwalker came that night. Arden felt it the moment it breached the barrier, a spike of cold pressure that made her gasp. She was on her feet instantly, Ronan right behind her. It's here, she said. They ran toward the perimeter, Mara following with a bag of supplies. The settlement was waking up around them, people stepping out of their homes, sensing the wrongness in the air. Arden reached the barrier and saw it ripple, bending under the weight of something unseen. Cracks were forming, hairline fractures in the light. Now or never, Ronan said. Arden raised her hands, summoning every scrap of power she had left. The light blazed, brighter than it had ever been, and she reached for Ronan. He took her hand. The connection snapped into place like a circuit closing. Power flowed between them, doubling, amplifying, and Arden poured it into the barrier. The light exploded outward, forming a dome so bright it turned night into day. The Riftwalker screamed. It wasn't a sound exactly, more like a feeling, a psychic wail that made Arden's teeth ache. But the barrier held. More! Mara shouted, her hands moving in complex patterns, guiding the light into the shapes she'd found in the old texts. You need to seal it, not just push it back. Arden didn't know how, but Ronan's hand tightened on hers, and she felt his strength flowing into her, steadying her. Together, they pushed. The light contracted, tightening around the Riftwalker, forming chains of energy that wrapped around the invisible thing. It thrashed, fighting, but the chains held. And then, with a final surge of power, the seal snapped shut. The light vanished. Arden and Ronan collapsed. Arden woke to voices arguing. Her head felt like it had been split open and poorly reassembled. Every muscle in her body screamed protest when she tried to move, so she lay still, eyes closed, listening. Don't care what you saw. She's dangerous. A man's voice, unfamiliar, sharp with anger. She saved your life. That was Mara, her tone ice cold. All of your lives. By doing what? Glowing? We don't know what she is. For all we know, she brought that thing here in the first place. That's insane. Is it? 3 people died before she showed up. Now she's here, waving her magic hands around, and suddenly we're supposed to trust her? Arden opened her eyes. She was in Mara's cabin, lying on a cot near the fire. Across the room, Mara stood toe-to-toe with a stocky man in his 40s, his face red with frustration. Behind him, 2 others watched, a younger woman with her arms crossed, and an older man leaning heavily on a cane. Where's Ronan? Arden asked. Her voice came out hoarse. Everyone turned. Awake, the stocky man said. Good. Now you can answer some questions. Marcus? Mara started. No. Marcus jabbed a finger toward Arden. I want to know what happened out there. I want to know what that light was. And I want to know why we should let you stay. Arden pushed herself upright, ignoring the way the room spun. Where is Ronan? Resting, Mara said quickly. He's fine, just exhausted. That should have been reassuring, but Arden could hear what Mara wasn't saying. Ronan had taken the brunt of the final surge. The connection between them had flowed both ways, and when the seal closed, it had drained him dry. What do you remember? The older man with the cane asked. His voice was gentler than Marcus's, curious rather than hostile. Enough, Arden said. She met Marcus's glare. You want to know what I am? Fine. I'm someone who can see things you can't, feel things you don't, and I used that to stop the thing that was killing your people. You're welcome. That doesn't answer my question. It's the only answer you're getting. Marcus's jaw tightened. We could throw you out, right now. See how long you last without our protection. Marcus, the woman behind him said quietly. Stop. Elena's right, the older man added. This isn't helping. But Marcus wasn't done. You think you're special? You think we need you? We survived before you got here, and we'll survive after you're gone. Then do it, Arden said. She was too tired for this, too wrung out to care. Throw me out. But when that thing comes back, and it will, don't come crying to me. It's dead, Marcus snapped. We all saw it. The light trapped it. The light sealed it, Arden corrected. There's a difference. And seals break. The room went quiet. How long? Elena asked. Arden wanted to lie, wanted to tell them they had years, decades, that they'd be safe forever. But she'd spent 3 years lying to herself about the cost of her power, and she was done with pretty illusions. I don't know, she admitted. Could be months, could be weeks. Depends on how strong the seal holds. And if it breaks, the older man asked, then we're back where we started, except this time I might not be strong enough to stop it. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but Elena put a hand on his arm. We need to think about this. All of us. Not make decisions when everyone's exhausted and angry. Fine, Marcus bit out. But I'm posting guards. And if anything else happens, anything, she's gone. He stormed out. Elena followed, murmuring apologies. The older man lingered. I'm Saul, he said, extending a weathered hand, elder of this settlement for what that's worth. And I want to thank you. Whatever Marcus thinks, you saved lives last night. Arden shook his hand. His grip was surprisingly strong. I did what I had to. Most people don't. Saul smiled faintly. Get some rest. We'll talk more when you're stronger. He left, the door clicking shut behind him. Mara let out a long breath. Well, that went about as well as I expected. They hate me. They're scared. There's a difference. Mara poured water from a pitcher and handed Arden a cup. Drink. You're dehydrated. Arden drained the cup in 3 swallows. How bad is Ronan? Sleeping. He'll be out for a while. Mara refilled the cup. What you two did last night, sharing the load like that, it's not something I've ever seen before. The old texts mention bonding, but nothing like that. Is he going to be okay? I think so, but Arden, Mara hesitated. You need to be careful. That connection you made, it's not just about power. You tied yourself to him. If something happens to one of you, it could affect the other. Arden's stomach dropped. What do you mean? I mean, if you drain yourself too far, it could pull from him, and vice versa. You're not separate anymore. Not completely. Can we undo it? I don't know, maybe. But right now I'd focus on keeping both of you alive. Arden set the cup down, her hands shaking. She'd been so desperate to stop the Riftwalker, so focused on saving the settlement, that she hadn't thought about the consequences. And now Ronan was tied to her dying power, her failing body. She'd dragged him down with her. Hey, Mara's voice cut through the spiral of guilt. Don't do that. Don't blame yourself. He chose this. You didn't force him. I should have told him the risks. You didn't know the risks. Neither of us did. Mara pulled up a chair and sat. Look, you did something incredible last night, something that shouldn't have been possible. And yes, there are consequences, but you're both still breathing. That counts for something. Arden wanted to believe her, but the weight in her chest wouldn't lift. Can I see him? She asked. Later, let him rest. Mara stood. You should sleep too. You look like hell. Thanks. I'm serious. Sleep. I'll wake you if anything changes. Arden lay back down, staring at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible. But exhaustion was a tide, and eventually it pulled her under. She dreamed of light and darkness tangled together, of a seal cracking at the edges, of something cold and patient waiting on the other side. When she woke, it was late afternoon. The cabin was quiet, and Mara was gone. Arden sat up slowly, testing her body. Still sore, still weak, but better than before. She needed to see Ronan. The cabin next door was smaller, just a single room with a bed, a table, and a tiny fireplace. Ronan lay on the bed, his face pale, his breathing deep and steady. Arden knelt beside him, taking his hand. The connection was still there. Faint, like a thread stretched thin, but present. She could feel his exhaustion, the echo of the power they'd shared, and something else, something solid and steady that felt like him. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ronan's eyes opened. "For what?" Arden jumped. "You're awake." "Hard to sleep with someone squeezing my hand." He smiled faintly. "How are you feeling?" "Like I should be asking you that." "I'm fine." He tried to sit up, winced, and thought better of it. "Okay, not fine, but alive." "Barely." Arden couldn't keep the guilt out of her voice. "I didn't know it would tie us together. If I had, you'd have done it anyway," Ronan said, "because people needed help, and so would I. You don't know that." "Yeah, I do." He squeezed her hand. "Stop beating yourself up. We made a choice. Together. Own it." Arden wanted to argue, but he was right. They'd both known the risks, or enough of them, and they'd done it anyway. "Mara says we're bonded now," she said, "that if I drain myself too far, it could hurt you." "Then don't drain yourself too far. It's not that simple." "Sure it is." Ronan shifted, trying to get comfortable. "We figure out how this works. We set limits. We don't do anything stupid." "Define stupid." "Dying for people who don't appreciate it." Arden huffed a laugh despite herself. "Fair." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside she could hear voices, the settlement going about its day, pretending last night hadn't happened. "They want me gone," Arden said quietly. "I know." "Marcus is posting guards, probably to make sure I don't do anything else terrifying. Also to keep you safe." Arden looked at him. "You think?" "Some of them, yeah. Marcus is an ass, but he's not stupid. He knows what you did." Ronan closed his eyes. "Give them time. They'll come around." "And if they don't?" "Then we leave." "We?" He opened one eye. "You think I'm staying here without you? After this?" He gestured vaguely at himself. "We're stuck together now. Literally." I'm not arguing about this, Arden. Where you go, I go. End of discussion." She wanted to protest, wanted to tell him he was being ridiculous, that he didn't owe her anything, that he should save himself while he still could. But the truth was, she didn't want to be alone anymore. "Okay," she said softly. Ronan smiled. "Good. Now let me sleep. I feel like I got trampled by a moose." So, over the next 3 days, the settlement slowly returned to normal. People repaired the damage from the Riftwalkers' attack, tended to the injured, and tried to pretend life was the same as before. But it wasn't. Arden felt it every time she walked through the square, the way conversation stopped when she passed, the way people watched her like she might explode at any moment. Some were grateful. Most were wary. A few were outright hostile. Marcus's guards followed her everywhere. They were subtle about it, keeping their distance, but she always knew they were there. Ronan recovered faster than she did, his strength returning in steady increments. By the 3rd day, he was up and moving, though Mara insisted he take it easy. He ignored her, of course, and spent most of his time with Arden, testing the limits of their connection. They discovered that distance mattered. The farther apart they were, the weaker the bond felt. But within 100 yards, it was strong enough to share power, and strong enough to share pain. "Try hitting me," Ronan said one morning. Arden stared at him. "What?" "Not hard. Just tap my arm. Let's see what happens." "This is a terrible idea." "Probably. Do it anyway." Arden sighed and lightly smacked his forearm. Immediately, she felt an echo of the impact in her own arm. Not painful, just a dull pressure. "Felt that," Ronan said. "You?" "Yeah." "Great. So if I get stabbed, you'll know about it." "That's not comforting." "Wasn't meant to be." They kept testing. Arden summoned small bursts of light, and Ronan learned to pull from the connection, easing the drain on her. It wasn't perfect. He couldn't hold as much as she could, and it tired him faster, but it worked. "We need to train," Ronan said after one session left them both winded. "Build up endurance. If that thing breaks free, we can't afford to collapse after 5 minutes." "Agreed. But how?" "Start small, work our way up, like any other skill." It sounded simple. It wasn't. The first time Arden tried to hold a barrier for more than a few minutes, she nearly passed out. The second time, Ronan pulled too much power through the bond and ended up on his knees, gasping. The third time, they managed 30 seconds before the light flickered out. "This is going to take forever," Arden said, frustrated. "Then we'd better get started." On the fourth day, Marcus called a meeting. The entire settlement gathered in the square. 50 people, maybe 60, all crammed into the space between the buildings. Arden and Ronan stood at the edge, Mara beside them, watching as Marcus climbed onto a makeshift platform. "Most of you know why we're here," Marcus began. "We need to talk about what happened, and what happens next." A murmur ran through the crowd. "The thing that attacked us, the Riftwalker, Mara calls it, is sealed. For now. But Arden says it could come back, and if it does, we need to be ready." "Ready how?" someone shouted. "That's the question." Marcus looked directly at Arden. "She says she can stop it, but we don't know at what cost. We don't know if she'll even be here when it happens. So I'm asking, do we rely on her, or do we find another way?" The crowd erupted. Half the people started talking at once, voices overlapping, some angry, some scared, some just confused. Elena stepped forward, raising her hands for quiet. "We can't ignore what she did. She saved us. That has to count for something." "It counts," Saul agreed. "But Marcus is right to ask the question. We need a plan that doesn't depend entirely on one person." "Then what do you suggest?" Mara asked, her voice cutting through the noise. "Because unless someone else here can see invisible monsters, I think we're stuck with the person who can." No one answered. Marcus's expression hardened. "Then we evacuate. Pack up. Move somewhere safer." "There is nowhere safer," Arden said. Everyone turned to look at her. "The Riftwalker isn't tied to this place. It's tied to me. If I leave, it follows. And if it follows, it hunts. You think I'm dangerous? Imagine what happens when that thing is loose in the wilderness with no one to stop it." "Then stay," Marcus shot back. "Stay here and keep us safe, or leave and take the problem with you. Either way, we need to know." Arden felt the weight of every gaze on her. She could tell them she'd stay. She could promise to protect them, to keep the seal strong, to fight the Riftwalker every time it came back. But she'd spent 3 years making promises to people who didn't appreciate them, and she was tired. "I'll stay," she said. "On one condition." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What condition?" "You stop treating me like a threat. You stop following me. And you let me do what I came here to do, which is survive." Arden looked around the crowd. "I didn't ask for this power. I didn't ask to be hunted, but I'm here, and I can help. So either trust me or don't, but make a choice." The silence stretched. Finally, Saul spoke. "I trust her." Elena nodded. "So do I." One by one, others agreed. Not everyone. Marcus stayed silent, his jaw tight, but enough. "Then it's settled," Saul said. "Arden stays, and we work together to keep this place safe." But the meeting dissolved into smaller conversations, people drifting away in clusters. Arden felt the tension in her shoulders ease just a little. "That went better than I expected," Ronan murmured. "Lower the bar much?" Arden muttered back. Mara chuckled. "Come on, let's get out of here before Marcus changes his mind." That night, Arden couldn't sleep. She lay on her cot, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the settlement outside. Somewhere, a dog barked. Someone laughed. Life, continuing. But underneath it all, she felt the seal. Faint, distant, but there. A constant pull on her awareness, like a splinter she couldn't remove. It was weakening, slowly but measurably. She gave it 2 weeks, maybe 3. And then what? She thought about Marcus's suggestion. Evacuate, run, find somewhere safer. But there was nowhere safer. The Riftwalker had found her once. It would find her again. Unless she stopped running. The thought came to her fully formed, like something she'd known all along but hadn't wanted to admit. She couldn't keep playing defense. She couldn't keep raising barriers and hoping they'd hold. She needed to kill it. The problem was, she had no idea how. Arden sat up, pulling on her boots. She needed air, needed to think. Outside, the night was cold and clear, the stars sharp overhead. She walked to the edge of the settlement, past the last row of cabins, to where the forest began. One of Marcus's guards watched her but didn't approach. She closed her eyes and reached for the bond. Ronan was asleep, his presence in the connection soft and steady. She didn't pull from it, just let herself feel it. The proof that she wasn't alone anymore. It was terrifying and comforting in equal measure. Can't sleep? Arden turned. Elena stood a few feet away, wrapped in a heavy cloak, her breath misting in the cold. Something like that, Arden said. Elena moved to stand beside her, gazing out at the trees. I wanted to apologize for Marcus. He's protective of this place. Sometimes it makes him an ass. He's not wrong to be suspicious. Maybe, but you still saved us. Elena glanced at her. I saw what you did. That light, it was beautiful. It's killing me. I know. Elena's voice was quiet. Mara told me about the cost. And I just wanted to say thank you for paying it anyway. Arden didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. They stood in silence for a while, watching the forest breathe. Can I ask you something? Elena said finally. Sure. Why stay? You could leave. Take Ronan and go somewhere the Riftwalker can't find you. Why risk your life for people you barely know? Arden considered the question. A week ago, she wouldn't have had an answer. But now, because someone has to, she said. And I can. So I will. Elena smiled. That's a good reason. Is it? Better than most. They talked for a while longer, about nothing important, just the kind of small talk that filled space and made you feel less alone. When Elena finally said goodnight and headed back, Arden felt a little lighter. Maybe this place could be home. Maybe. Well, the next morning, Mara had news. I found something, she said, spreading a new set of papers across the table. About the Riftwalker, and how to kill it. Arden and Ronan leaned in. The old texts mention a weapon, Mara continued. A blade forged with the same energy used in the wards. If you could make something like that, you might be able to cut through the Riftwalker's defenses. Might? Ronan repeated. The texts aren't exactly clear, but it's the only offensive option I've found. How do we make this blade? Arden asked. Mara hesitated. That's the problem. The forging process requires channeling your power directly into the metal. For hours, maybe days. It's not going to be easy. Easy's got nothing to do with it, Arden said. Can it be done? In theory, but you'd need someone who knows how to work metal, and you'd need to stay conscious long enough to finish. I can help with that, Ronan said, tapping the table. The bond. If we share the load, it might work, Mara finished, or it might kill you both. Seems to be a theme, Arden muttered. There's one more thing. Mara pulled out a final page, this one covered in dense handwriting. According to this, the blade has to be used at the source, where the Riftwalker came from, where it's strongest. The Hollowlands, Ronan said. Mara nodded. The heart of the old territory. It's about 3 days' travel from here, dangerous even without the Riftwalker. But if you want to end this permanently, then that's where we go, Arden finished. Ronan looked at her. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They spent the next week preparing. Saul pointed them toward a blacksmith on the far side of the settlement, a grizzled woman named Kara who'd been working metal since before Arden was born. She listened to their plan with a skeptical frown. You want me to forge a blade out of magic, Kara said flatly. Yes, Arden said. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Can you do it? Kara studied her for a long moment. Then she grinned. Hell yes. They started the next day. Kara set up her forge at the edge of the settlement, far enough that if something went wrong, it wouldn't take out half the buildings. Arden and Ronan stood on either side of the anvil, hands clasped, channeling light into the metal as Kara hammered it into shape. It was agony. The process was slow, painstaking, and it burned. Not physically, the light didn't generate heat, but it felt like it was stripping away pieces of Arden's soul with every strike of the hammer. Ronan's face was pale, his jaw clenched, but he didn't let go. They worked in shifts, an hour at a time, then collapsed and recovered before starting again. After 3 days, the blade was half-formed, a rough, glowing thing that pulsed with their shared power. After 5 days, it was done. Kara held it up, turning it in the firelight. The blade was slender, almost delicate, but it hummed with energy. The light didn't fade. Beautiful, Kara murmured, and probably cursed, but beautiful. Arden took the blade, feeling the weight of it. It was warm in her hand, alive in a way no normal weapon could be. Will it work? Ronan asked. Only one way to find out, Arden said. They left at dawn. The settlement turned out to see them off, more people than Arden expected. Elena hugged her. Saul pressed a pouch of supplies into Ronan's hands. Even Marcus nodded, grudging but sincere. Don't die, he said. Wasn't planning on it, Arden replied. Mara walked with them to the edge of the forest. You know the way? More or less, Ronan said. 3 days north, follow the old road. And if you run into trouble? We improvise. Mara smiled faintly. Of course you do. She looked at Arden. Be careful, both of you, and come back. We will, Arden promised. They walked into the forest, the settlement disappearing behind them. Ahead, the Hollowlands waited, and the Riftwalker with them. Arden's hand tightened on the blade. This ended now. Wassa. The first day was uneventful. They followed the remnants of an old road, long overgrown but still visible if you knew where to look. The forest here was older, denser, the trees massive and gnarled with age. Ronan kept a steady pace, stopping only when Arden needed to rest. The bond between them thrummed, constant and reassuring. You feel that? Ronan asked as they made camp that night. Feel what? The air. It's heavier here. Arden closed her eyes and reached out with her senses. He was right. There was a pressure building. Subtle, but growing. They were getting closer. We're on the right track, she said. Great. I feel so much better. They slept in shifts, the blade resting between them. Arden dreamed of the Riftwalker, shapeless, hungry, patient, and woke with her heart racing. The second day was harder. The pressure in the air intensified, and by midday, Arden could feel the seal pulling at her, draining her with every step. Ronan took more of the load, his face tight with concentration. How much farther? He asked. Tomorrow. Maybe the day after. You gonna make it? Have to. That night they didn't sleep. The forest around them felt wrong, too quiet, too still. Arden kept the blade in her hand, the light casting faint shadows. You scared? Ronan asked. Terrified. Good. Me too. On the third day they reached the Hollowlands. The forest opened into a clearing, a massive circular space where nothing grew. The ground was bare earth, cracked and dry, and in the center stood the remnants of an ancient structure. Stones carved with symbols Arden didn't recognize, half buried and broken. And beyond it, the air shimmered. The Riftwalker was here. Arden felt the seal crack. Not break. Not yet. But the fractures were spreading, and she could feel the thing on the other side pushing, testing, hungry. Now or never, Ronan said. Arden raised the blade. The light flared, bright and fierce. The Riftwalker screamed, and the fight began. The Riftwalker didn't have a shape, but Arden could see where it displaced the world. The air bent around it like heat rising from stone, and within that distortion, something massive moved. It circled them slowly, deliberately, and every step it took made the ground tremble. Stay close, Arden said, raising the blade. Light poured from the metal, brighter than anything she'd summoned before. Ronan moved to her left, his hand finding hers. The bond snapped taut between them, power flowing in both directions. What's the plan? Hit it until it dies. That's a terrible plan. You got a better one? The Riftwalker struck. Arden didn't see it coming, just felt the impact as something invisible slammed into her barrier. The light shattered like glass, and she flew backward, hitting the ground hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. Ronan was there instantly, pulling her up. You okay? No. Arden coughed, tasting blood. But I'm not dead yet. The Riftwalker circled again, and this time Arden tracked its movement by the way the grass flattened beneath invisible weight. It was bigger than she'd thought, bigger than anything should be. We need to draw it out, she said, mate. Make it solid. How? I don't know, but if it stays invisible, we can't kill it. The creature lunged again, faster this time. Arden raised the blade and swung. The weapon connected with something, she felt the resistance, heard a sound like tearing fabric, and the Riftwalker recoiled. For just a moment she saw it. Not clearly, just an outline, a suggestion of form, something with too many limbs and a mouth that opened in the wrong direction. Then it faded back into invisibility, and the shimmer in the air grew more chaotic. "It's angry," Ronan said. "Good. Angry things make mistakes." They attacked together. Ronan channeled power through the bond while Arden swung the blade in wide arcs, cutting through the distortions in the air. Every strike drained them both, but every strike also forced the Riftwalker to reveal itself, just for a fraction of a second. It wasn't enough. The creature adapted fast, learning to dodge, to feint, to strike from angles they couldn't predict. Arden's arms burned from the effort of swinging the blade, and her legs felt like they might give out at any moment. "This isn't working," Ronan gasped. "I know. We need a new plan." "I'm open to suggestions." The Riftwalker hit them both at once, a double strike that sent them sprawling in opposite directions. Arden's grip on the blade faltered, and for a terrifying second she thought she'd lost it. But her hand closed around the hilt at the last moment, and she rolled to her feet. Ronan wasn't as lucky. He lay crumpled on the ground, not moving. "Ronan!" Arden's scream tore from her throat. She felt him through the bond, hurt, dazed, but alive. Barely. The Riftwalker turned toward him. Arden didn't think. She just moved. She threw herself between Ronan and the creature, raising the blade with both hands. Light exploded from her in a wave. Not a barrier this time, but a pulse. Raw, uncontrolled power that ripped through the clearing. The Riftwalker became visible. Completely, horribly visible. It was a nightmare made flesh. Too many legs, too many joints. A body that seemed to shift and fold in on itself. Its head, if it could be called that, was a gaping maw lined with rows of teeth that spiraled inward like a tunnel. And it was staring at her. Arden drove the blade forward with everything she had. The weapon sank into the creature's body, and the Riftwalker screamed. The sound was physical, a pressure that crushed the air from Arden's lungs and made her ears bleed. But she didn't let go. She pushed deeper, pouring light through the blade, burning the creature from the inside out. The Riftwalker thrashed. One of its limbs caught Arden across the ribs, and she heard something crack. Pain exploded through her side, but she held on. "Arden!" Ronan's voice, distant and desperate. The creature was dissolving. She could see it now, the edges of its body unraveling, turning to smoke and shadow. But it wasn't dying fast enough. Arden reached for the bond and pulled. Hard. Ronan's power flooded into her, more than she'd ever taken before, and she channeled it all into the blade. The light became blinding, white-hot, and the Riftwalker's scream cut off mid-cry. Then it was gone. The blade fell from Arden's hands. She collapsed, her vision swimming, her body refusing to obey her commands. Somewhere nearby, Ronan was crawling toward her, his face pale. "Did we?" she tried to ask. "Yeah." Ronan's voice was hoarse. "It's dead." Arden closed her eyes. She wanted to feel relieved, triumphant, something, but all she felt was empty. They lay there for a long time, neither of them able to move. The clearing was silent now, the oppressive pressure gone. The ancient stones stood as they always had, indifferent to the battle that had just unfolded. The sky above was gray and cold. "Can you stand?" Ronan asked eventually. "Not yet. You?" "Maybe, if I had to." "Don't." They rested. Arden's ribs throbbed with every breath, and she was pretty sure at least two were broken. Ronan looked worse, bruises already forming on his face, a cut above his eye still bleeding, but they were alive. "We should go back," Ronan said, "before something else decides to kill us. Give me a minute?" "You've had 10. "Then give me 10 more." Ronan laughed, then winced. "Don't make me laugh. Everything hurts." Arden forced herself to sit up. The movement sent fresh pain lancing through her side, but she gritted her teeth and pushed through it. Ronan did the same, and together they managed to stand. The blade lay on the ground between them, its light extinguished. Arden picked it up. The metal was cool now, inert. Whatever power it had held was gone. "Think it'll work again?" Ronan asked. "Hope we never have to find out." They started walking. The journey back felt twice as long as the trip out, every step an exercise in endurance. They stopped frequently, leaning on each other, sharing what little strength they had through the bond. By the time night fell, they'd barely made it a mile. "We're not going to make it back tonight," Ronan said. "I know." "Or tomorrow." "I know." They found shelter in a hollow beneath an overturned tree and collapsed inside. Arden tried to stay awake, to keep watch, but exhaustion dragged her down within minutes. She dreamed of the Riftwalker's scream and woke shaking. The second day was harder than the first. Arden's ribs had gone from painful to agonizing, and every breath felt like knives. Ronan wasn't much better. His leg had stiffened overnight, and he limped badly. But they kept moving. The forest felt different now, lighter somehow, as if the Riftwalker's death had lifted a weight Arden hadn't realized was there. Birds sang in the branches above. Sunlight filtered through the leaves. It was almost peaceful. "You think they'll believe us?" Ronan asked as they rested. "About killing it? Maybe. Marcus will probably find a reason to doubt it." "Marcus doubts everything." "He's consistent. I'll give him that." They shared a dry smile. "What are you going to do after this?" Ronan asked. "When we get back?" Arden hadn't thought that far ahead. For 3 years, her entire existence had been about survival, keeping the pack safe, keeping herself alive, keeping the Riftwalker at bay. Now that it was over, she didn't know what came next. "Rest," she said finally. "For a week, maybe 2. Then figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with my life." "You could stay at the settlement." "You think they'd want me to?" "I think some of them would." Ronan looked at her. "I know I would." Arden's throat tightened. "Why?" "Because you're the first person I've met who's more stubborn than I am, and that's saying something." She laughed despite herself. "That's your reason?" "That, and I like you." In case that wasn't obvious. It had been obvious. Arden just hadn't let herself think about it. She'd spent so long alone, so long convinced she didn't deserve connection, that the idea of someone actually wanting her around felt foreign. "I like you too," she said quietly. Ronan grinned. "Good. Because this bond thing would be really awkward otherwise." They walked on. By the afternoon of the third day, they were close enough to see smoke from the settlement's fires rising above the trees. Arden felt a surge of relief so strong it almost brought her to her knees. They'd made it. Against all odds, they'd actually made it. "Almost there," Ronan said. "Think you can make it another mile?" "If I have to crawl." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." They emerged from the forest just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The settlement spread out before them, lights already glowing in windows, people moving between buildings. Someone spotted them. A shout went up. Within minutes, they were surrounded. Mara reached them first, her eyes wide with relief and concern. "You're alive." "Barely," Arden said. "Did you?" "It's dead." A cheer went up from the crowd. People pressed in, asking questions, offering help, their voices overlapping into a cacophony. Arden felt the walls closing in, the noise becoming too much. "Give them space," Saul's voice cut through the chaos. "They're exhausted. Let Mara take care of them first. Questions can wait." The crowd reluctantly parted. Mara led them toward her cabin, Ronan limping beside Arden, both of them leaning on each other for support. Inside, Mara sat them down and began assessing their injuries with quick, efficient movements. "Broken ribs," she muttered, probing Arden's side. "Possible concussion, severe exhaustion. What the hell did you two do out there?" "Killed a monster," Ronan said. "Clearly." Mara moved to examine his leg. "This is sprained, badly. You're lucky it's not broken." "I feel so lucky," Ronan said dryly. Mara prepared tea, the same bitter herbal blend from before, and made them drink it. The warmth spread through Arden's chest, easing some of the pain. "You need to rest," Mara said. "Both of you. For days, not hours." The settlement?" Arden started. "We'll be fine. The Riftwalker is dead. You made sure of that." Mara's expression softened. "You did good, Arden. Better than good. Now let someone else carry the weight for a while." It was permission Arden hadn't known she needed. She nodded, too tired to argue. She slept for 16 hours. When she finally woke, it was mid-morning, and sunlight streamed through the cabin's single window. Her ribs still hurt, but the sharp edge of the pain had dulled to something manageable. Ronan was already awake, sitting at the table with Mara. They both looked up when Arden stirred. "Welcome back," Mara said. "How long was I out?" "Long enough." Mara poured her a cup of water. "How do you feel?" "Like I got kicked by a horse, but alive." Arden took the water and drank. "What did I miss?" "Not much. The settlement's celebrating. Marcus is taking credit for organizing the whole thing. Elena keeps asking when you'll be well enough to talk." Mara smiled. "You're a hero now, whether you like it or not." Arden wasn't sure she liked it. Heroes were supposed to be strong, confident, unbreakable. She was none of those things. But she was alive, and she'd done what she set out to do. That had to count for something. "There's one more thing," Mara said, her tone shifting. "While you were sleeping, someone arrived. From your old pack." Arden's stomach dropped. "Who?" "A woman. Young. She says her name is Kira, and she needs to talk to you. Says it's urgent." Arden exchanged a glance with Ronan. "Where is she?" "Waiting outside." Mara hesitated. "She looks scared, Arden. Whatever she came here to say, it's not good." Kira stood near the edge of the settlement, her arms wrapped around herself, her face pale. She was maybe 20, with dark hair pulled back in a braid and eyes that darted nervously. Arden recognized her. She'd been one of the younger wolves in the pack, quiet and easily overlooked. They'd never spoken more than a few words to each other. "Kira," Arden said, approaching slowly. Ronan stayed a few steps behind, watching. "What are you doing here?" Kira's eyes widened when she saw Arden. "You're alive. She cut herself off. "I wasn't sure. After everything, I thought maybe—" "Slow down. What happened?" Kira took a shaky breath. "The pack. Something's wrong. People are getting sick, not regular sick. Something worse. They're weak, can't shift, can't hunt. Some of them are dying." Arden felt ice slide down her spine. "When did this start?" "A few days after you left. At first we thought it was just bad luck, but it kept spreading. And Alpha Garrick," Kira's voice broke. "He's the worst of all. He can barely stand. What does this have to do with me?" "Mara came to the pack last week, to trade. She mentioned you, said you'd been protecting us for years with some kind of barrier. And when she said that, I remembered—" Kira looked at Arden desperately. "You were always tired, always on the edges. And after you left, everything fell apart." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The barriers. Arden had been maintaining them for 3 years, pouring her own life force into keeping the Riftwalker away. But she'd also been pouring something else. Protection. The pack had thrived under those barriers, stronger and healthier than they should have been. And when she left, when the barriers fell, that protection vanished. "How many are sick?" Arden asked quietly. "Half the pack. Maybe more." Kira's eyes filled with tears. "Please, I know what they did to you. I know you have every right to hate us, but people are dying. Children, elders, people who never asked for any of this." Arden closed her eyes. She thought about the pack, about the people who'd cast her out, who'd called her weak and worthless. She thought about the children who'd laughed at her in the training yard, about the elders who'd ignored her, about Garrick standing on his platform, dismissing her like she was nothing. She thought about all the reasons she should say no, and then she thought about the fact that she couldn't. "I'll help," Arden said. Kira sagged with relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much. But I have conditions." Kira straightened. "Anything. I go to the pack. I do what I can. But when I'm done, they acknowledge what I did. Publicly. No more lies. No more pretending I didn't exist. I'll make sure of it. And if Garrick or anyone else tries to throw me out again, I'm gone. For good. No second chances." "Understood." Arden looked at Ronan. His expression was carefully neutral. "You don't have to come." "Yes, I do. We're bonded, remember? Where you go, I go." "This could be dangerous." "So was the Riftwalker, and the barriers, and pretty much everything we've done so far." Ronan smiled faintly. "I'm not letting you face your old pack alone." Arden felt something warm settle in her chest. "Okay, then we leave tomorrow." Tick. The settlement threw them a farewell feast that night. It was smaller than the celebration after the Riftwalker's death, more intimate. People brought food, shared stories, and toasted to Arden and Ronan's safe return. Marcus even approached Arden, his expression uncomfortable. I was wrong about you. I'm man enough to admit it. Thanks, Arden said, surprised. You saved us, and you didn't have to. Marcus extended a hand. If you ever need anything, anything at all, you let us know. Arden shook his hand. I will. Elena hugged her. Come back when this is over. We'll save you a place. I'd like that. Mara gave them supplies, food, medicine, spare clothes, and made them promise to be careful. Your ribs aren't fully healed, neither is Ronan's leg. Don't do anything stupid. Define stupid, Ronan said. You know exactly what I mean. They left at dawn, Kira leading the way. The journey to the Pack's territory would take 3 days if they pushed hard, longer if they took it slow. Arden wasn't sure what she'd find when they got there, or how the Pack would react to seeing her again. But she knew one thing. She wasn't the same person they'd cast out. She'd fought a monster and won. She'd forged a weapon from her own power. She'd earned the respect of people who barely knew her, and she was done letting anyone make her feel small. They reached the Pack's territory on the evening of the 3rd day. The first thing Arden noticed was the silence. No patrols at the borders, no voices calling out challenges, just empty forest and the faint smell of sickness on the wind. It's worse than I thought, Kira whispered. They approached the settlement cautiously. The buildings looked the same, but the energy was wrong. People moved slowly, if they moved at all. A few sat outside their homes, staring at nothing. Someone spotted them. A man Arden vaguely recognized, one of the hunters. He staggered to his feet. Kira, you're back, and... His eyes widened when he saw Arden. You. I'm here to help, Arden said. The man looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't have the strength. Alpha wants to see you. He's in the main hall. Arden's jaw tightened. Of course Garrick wanted to see her, probably to tell her to leave. But when they entered the hall, Garrick wasn't on his platform. He was slumped in a chair at the far end, his face gaunt and gray. He looked like he'd aged 20 years in the 3 weeks since Arden had left. He looked up when they entered, and recognition flickered in his eyes. Arden. Garrick. You came back. Kira asked. I said I'd help. Garrick's laugh was bitter. Help. After what we did to you. I'm not doing this for you, Arden said. I'm doing it because people are dying. People who don't deserve it. Garrick studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fair enough. What do you need? Space to work and no interference. You have it. Arden spent the next 2 days assessing the damage. The sickness had spread through the Pack like wildfire. People were weak, feverish, unable to shift. Some had stopped eating. A few had already died. It was exactly what Mara had warned about. When the barriers fell, the protection they provided vanished, and the Pack's bodies, which had grown dependent on that energy, began to fail. The solution was simple in theory: rebuild the barriers. The problem was that Arden barely had the strength to stand, let alone raise protection strong enough to heal 70 people. You can't do this alone, Ronan said on the second night. They were sitting outside the hall, watching the stars. I know. So let me help. The bond could kill you. We've pushed it too far already. Arden? No. She turned to face him. I almost lost you fighting the Riftwalker. I'm not risking you again. Then what's your plan? I don't have one yet. Arden rubbed her face. But I'll figure it out. Before everyone dies? She didn't have an answer to that. The breakthrough came on the 3rd day. Arden was sitting with one of the sick children, a girl maybe 8 years old, her face pale and clammy, when she felt it. A faint pull, like a thread connecting her to the child. It wasn't the bond. It was something older, deeper. The barriers she'd raised had been feeding the Pack for years, and in doing so, they'd created connections, tiny threads of power linking her to every person she'd protected. Those threads were still there, dormant, but present. If she could reactivate them, if she could channel power through those connections instead of building new barriers, she might be able to heal the Pack without draining herself dry. It was risky. She didn't know if it would work, and if it went wrong, it could kill her. But it was the only option she had. Arden found Ronan. I need your help. finally. Don't get excited. This is going to suck. She explained her plan. Ronan listened, his expression growing more concerned with every word. That's insane, he said when she finished. I know. You could die. I know that too. And you're doing it anyway. Yes, Ronan sighed. Then let's get started. They gathered the pack in the central square just before dawn. 70 people, most of them too weak to stand. They sat or lay on the ground, watching Arden with expressions ranging from hope to suspicion. Garrick stood at the front, leaning heavily on a cane. She's going to try to help us, he announced. I expect cooperation. Arden stepped forward, Ronan at her side. I need everyone to stay calm. This is going to feel strange. Don't fight it. She closed her eyes and reached inward, finding the threads that connected her to the pack. They were faint, almost invisible, but they were there. One by one, she grasped them. Power flowed through her, through Ronan, through the bond, and into the pack. The light began, soft at first, then brighter, until the entire square glowed like daylight. The pack gasped. Arden felt their surprise, their fear, their wonder, all tangled together. She pushed more power through the connections, channeling everything she and Ronan had into healing the sickness that had taken root. It hurt. It burned. It felt like she was being torn apart from the inside. But it was working. She could feel the pack growing stronger, the fever breaking, the weakness fading. And then something shifted. One of the threads snapped. Then another. The connections were breaking, unraveling faster than she could repair them. Arden, Ronan's voice was strained. Something's wrong. She knew. She could feel it. The power was too much. The connections couldn't hold it. If she didn't stop, the backlash would kill her. But if she stopped now, the pack would die. Arden made her choice. She poured everything into the connections, every scrap of strength, every ounce of power, everything she had, and more. The light blazed so bright it was blinding. The threads held, barely. And then the world went black. Arden woke to voices. She was lying on the ground, staring up at a gray sky. Her entire body felt numb, disconnected, like she was floating just above her own skin. Ronan's face appeared above her. Stay with me. Come on, Arden. Stay with me. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Around her, people were stirring, standing. Their faces had color again. Their eyes were clear. She'd done it. She'd saved them, and it had cost her everything. The last thing Arden saw before darkness claimed her again was Garrick's face, tears streaming down his cheeks, his mouth forming words she couldn't hear. Then nothing. Arden didn't dream. She fell into a darkness so complete it swallowed thought itself. When awareness finally clawed its way back, it came in fragments. The smell of herbs, the crackle of fire, voices speaking in low, urgent tones just beyond her reach. 3 days now. She should have woken up. Her body's been through hell. Give it time. Time? Ronan, look at her. She's barely breathing. She's breathing. That's what matters. Arden tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids felt like they'd been weighted with stones. She managed a groan instead, a thin, pathetic sound that barely qualified as human. The voices stopped. Footsteps rushed closer. Arden? Ronan's face swam into focus above her, blurry and concerned. Can you hear me? She tried to answer, but her mouth was too dry. Someone, Kira, she thought, pressed a cup of water to her lips. Arden drank, coughing when she took too much too fast. Easy, Kira murmured. Small sips. Arden managed a few more swallows before pushing the cup away. Her head was pounding, and every muscle felt like it had been stripped down to raw nerve endings. Where? Her voice cracked. She tried again. Where am I? The pack healer's cabin, Ronan said. You've been out for 3 days. 3 days. Arden tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through her ribs and the room tilted sideways. Ronan caught her before she could fall. Don't. You're not ready. The pack is fine. You saved them. All of them. Ronan's expression was tight, controlled. You also almost killed yourself doing it. But I didn't. That's not as comforting as you think it is. Arden leaned back against the pillows, exhausted from the effort of sitting up. How bad is it? How bad is what? The damage, to me. Ronan and Kira exchanged a look. Tell me, Arden said. Kira spoke first. The healer says your body is in shock. You burned through too much energy too fast. Your reserves are depleted. It's going to take weeks, maybe months, for you to recover fully. And the bond? Arden looked at Ronan. How are you? Tired, drained, but alive. Ronan's jaw tightened. You pulled too much from me at the end. I felt it. Felt you taking everything I had and then reaching for more. Guilt twisted in Arden's stomach. I'm sorry, I didn't mean... I know, but you need to understand something. Ronan leaned closer, his voice dropping. If you'd taken any more, we'd both be dead. You came that close. Arden closed her eyes. She'd known the risk. She'd taken it anyway. And now she had to live with the knowledge that she'd nearly killed the one person who'd never given up on her. I won't do it again, she said quietly. You'd better not, because next time, I'm not letting you. The pack came to see her in shifts. Some brought food, soups and broths she could barely stomach, but she forced down anyway. Others brought flowers, handmade gifts, awkward expressions of gratitude. A few came just to stare like they couldn't quite believe she was real. Garrett came on the fourth day. Arden was sitting up by then, propped against a pile of pillows, when he entered the cabin. He looked better than the last time she'd seen him. Color had returned to his face, and he walked without the cane. But there was something broken in his eyes. Arden, he said. Alpha. The title felt strange on her tongue, formal, distant. Garrick flinched. You don't have to call me that. Don't I? He moved to sit in the chair beside her bed, moving like an old man despite his renewed strength. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not the empty words I gave you that night in the rain. Arden waited. I failed you, Garrett continued. For years. I saw you struggling, saw you on the edges, and I told myself it didn't matter. That you were just weak, just less. His voice cracked. And the whole time you were the only thing keeping us alive. You didn't know. I should have. A good alpha pays attention. A good alpha sees every member of his pack. But I only saw what I wanted to see, what was easy to see. Garrick met her gaze. I was wrong. About everything. And I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air between them. Arden waited for the satisfaction to come, the vindication she'd imagined during all those lonely years. It didn't. You cast me out, she said. In front of everyone. You called me dead weight. I did. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. No, I didn't. Why should I forgive you? Garrick didn't look away. You shouldn't. I don't deserve it. But I'm asking anyway, because you're part of this pack, whether you want to be or not. And I need you to come home. Arden's throat tightened. This stopped being home the night you threw me out. Then let it become home again. It's not that simple. I know. Garrick stood, his movement stiff. But the offer stands, for as long as you want it. He left before Arden could respond. By the end of the first week, Arden could walk short distances without collapsing. By the end of the second, she could make it from the healer's cabin to the central square and back without needing to rest halfway. Ronan stayed close the entire time, watching her like a hawk. The bond between them had stabilized, but it felt different now, deeper somehow. Like the near-death experience had fused them together in ways they were still figuring out. You feel that? Ronan asked one afternoon as they sat outside the cabin. Feel what? The bond. It's stronger. Arden closed her eyes and reached for it. He was right. The connection thrummed between them, steady and warm, and she could sense his emotions more clearly than before. His concern, his relief, his affection. Yeah, she said. I feel it. Is that good or bad? I don't know yet. They sat in silence, watching the pack move through their daily routines. Children played in the square. Adults worked on repairs, hunted, prepared food. Life continuing. They keep staring at you, Ronan observed. I know. Does it bother you? Sometimes. Arden pulled her knees to her chest. They're treating me like I'm fragile, like I might break if they say the wrong thing. Can you blame them? You almost died saving their lives. That doesn't make me special. It just makes me stupid. Ronan laughed. Those aren't mutually exclusive. A woman approached, one of the elders, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Arden recognized her but couldn't remember her name. Arden, the woman said, her voice warm. I wanted to thank you. My grandson was one of the sickest. He's running around now like nothing happened. I'm glad, Arden said. We all are. The whole pack. The woman hesitated. I know it doesn't erase what happened, what we did to you, but I hope you know that we see you now, really see you. She left before Arden could respond. See, Ronan said, you're a hero. I'm not. You are. You just don't like it. He was right, she didn't. The pack held a gathering on the 15th day. Arden tried to skip it. She still tired easily, and the thought of standing in front of everyone while they praised her made her skin crawl. But Ronan wouldn't let her. You need to go, he said. They need to see you, and you need to let them say what they need to say. I hate this. I know, go anyway. So she went. The central square was packed. Every member of the pack had turned out, along with a few faces Arden didn't recognize, visitors from neighboring territories maybe, or allies. They fell silent when she and Ronan entered, all eyes turning to them. Garrick stood on the platform, looking healthier than he had in weeks. Thank you all for coming. We're here tonight to honor someone who gave everything to save us. Someone we failed. His voice carried across the square. Arden Vale, please step forward. Arden's stomach dropped. No. Go, Ronan murmured, giving her a gentle push. She walked forward on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. The crowd parted for her, and she climbed the steps to stand beside Garrick. 3 weeks ago, Garrick said, I stood here and cast this woman out of our pack. I called her weak, worthless, a burden. He paused. I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. For 3 years, Arden protected us in secret. She kept a monster at bay with her own life force, and when we were dying, she came back to save us. Not because we deserved it, but because she's better than we ever gave her credit for. The square was silent. Tonight, I'm offering Arden a formal place in this pack, not as an outsider, not as someone we tolerate, but as a full member, with all the rights and protections that come with it. And more than that, Garrick turned to her. I'm offering you a seat on the council, a voice in how this pack is run. You've earned it. Arden stared at him. What? You heard me. I want you on the council. I'm not. She struggled to find words. I don't know how to lead. You led us out of death. That's more than most of us can say. The crowd erupted in applause. People shouted agreement, calling her name, cheering. Arden felt like she might throw up. You don't have to answer now, Garrick said quietly, under the noise. Think about it, but know that the offer is real and permanent. Arden left the gathering early, slipping away while people were still celebrating. She walked to the edge of the territory to pray to the place where she'd been cast out 3 weeks ago. The ground still held the imprint of that night, the rain-soaked earth, the trampled grass, the memory of humiliation. She stood there, trying to reconcile the person she'd been that night with the person she was now. Figured I'd find you here. Arden turned. Ronan stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. I needed air, she said. Fair enough. That was a lot. Too much. Ronan moved to stand beside her. What are you going to tell them? About the council? I don't know. Part of me wants to say yes, to prove I belong, but another part... She shook her head. I spent 3 years being invisible. Now they want me to lead? It feels wrong. Why? Because I'm not a leader. I'm just someone who survived. That's exactly why you should do it. Ronan looked at her. You know what it's like to be overlooked, to be on the outside. You won't let that happen to anyone else. You think too highly of me. I think exactly as highly as you deserve. Arden wanted to believe him, wanted to believe she could be the person the pack needed, but doubt was a hard habit to break. I need time, she said. Then take it. But Arden? Ronan smiled. For what it's worth, I think you'd be great. Well, the decision came 3 days later, in the most unexpected way. Arden was helping with repairs on one of the storage buildings when a young woman approached, barely 20, with nervous eyes and a hesitant smile. "Arden?" she said. "Can I talk to you?" "Sure." They walked to a quieter corner of the settlement. The woman, her name was Lena, twisted her hands together nervously. "I wanted to ask you something," Lena said, "about what you did. Protecting the pack, I mean. For all those years." "What about it? Did anyone know? Did anyone help you?" "No, I did it alone." "Why?" Arden frowned. "Because they needed protection, and I was the only one who could give it." "But you were suffering. You could have asked for help." "I tried, once. They didn't believe me." Lena's face crumpled. "That must have been awful." "It was." "I think—" Lena took a breath. "I think I know how you felt. Not the same, obviously. But I've been trying to tell people about something I've seen. Something wrong. And no one listens. They say I'm imagining things, that I'm being dramatic." Arden's attention sharpened. "What have you seen?" "Tracks, near the western border, big ones. Too big to be any animal I know, and sometimes at night I hear sounds, like something's out there watching." A chill ran down Arden's spine. "How long has this been happening?" "A few weeks, since before you came back." "And you told the Alpha?" "I tried. He said I was paranoid, that the Riftwalker's death had everyone on edge." Lena looked at Arden desperately. "But I'm not imagining it. I know I'm not." Arden believed her. She knew exactly what it felt like to be dismissed, to have the truth ignored because it was inconvenient. "Show me," she said. They went to the western border the next morning, Ronan and Kira coming along for backup. The tracks were there, exactly as Lena had described. Massive prints, each one the size of a dinner plate, pressed deep into the soft earth. They didn't match any animal Arden recognized. "That's not a wolf," Ronan said, crouching beside one of the prints. "Or a bear." "No," Arden agreed. "It's not." They followed the tracks for half a mile, deeper into the forest. The trail led to a clearing where something had clearly been feeding, bones scattered across the ground, picked clean, and cracked open. "Whatever this is," Kira said quietly, "it's big, and it's hunting close to our territory." Arden studied the bones, deer mostly, a few smaller animals, nothing human, thank God. But that could change. "We need to tell Garrick," she said. "He won't believe it," Lena said. "He didn't believe me before." "Then we make him believe." The council meeting was tense. Garrick listened to Arden's report with a deepening frown, then shook his head. "You're sure about this?" "I saw the tracks myself. So did Ronan and Kira. It could be a bear or a pack of wolves from another territory." "It's neither." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen enough monsters to recognize when something's wrong." Arden leaned forward. "There's something out there, Garrick. Something big and dangerous. And it's getting closer to the pack. We just recovered from one disaster. I'm not about to start another panic over tracks in the mud." "This isn't panic. It's a warning." Garrick's jaw tightened. "I'll send scouts. If they find anything, we'll act. But I'm not mobilizing the entire pack over speculation." Arden wanted to argue, but she could see she wasn't going to change his mind. Not yet. "Fine," she said. "Send scouts. But when they come back with the same story, you'd better listen." The scouts returned 2 days later, pale and shaken. "There's something out there," the lead scout reported. "We didn't get close enough to see what, but we heard it, and we found more tracks, fresh ones." Garrick's expression darkened. "How close to the territory?" "Less than a mile." The room erupted in conversation. Garrick raised a hand for silence. "We'll increase patrols," he said. "Double the guards on the borders. And we'll send a hunting party to track this thing down and kill it before it becomes a real threat." "That won't work," Arden said. "Why not?" "Because you're treating this like a normal predator. It's not. If this thing is anything like the Riftwalker—" "It's not the Riftwalker," Garrick interrupted. "You killed that thing." "I know, but there might be others, or something worse." "You don't know that." "No, but I'm not willing to gamble with people's lives." Garrick met her gaze. "Then what do you suggest?" Arden took a breath. This was it. The moment where she either stepped up or walked away. "Let me handle it," she said. "I'll take a small team. We'll track this thing, figure out what it is, and neutralize it before it gets close enough to hurt anyone. You're still recovering. I'm strong enough. And if you're wrong, if this thing kills you, then at least I tried." The room fell silent. Arden could feel the weight of everyone's stares, the doubt, the fear, the hope. Finally, Garrick nodded. "All right, you have your team. But if this goes wrong, it won't." Look, Arden assembled her team that afternoon. Ronan was an obvious choice. They were bonded, and he'd proven himself capable in every fight they'd faced. Kira volunteered immediately, her determination outweighing her fear. And to Arden's surprise, two of the pack's best hunters asked to join, a man named Finn and a woman named Sarah, both experienced trackers. "Why do you want to come?" Arden asked them. "Because you saved our lives," Finn said, "and because we believe you." Sarah nodded. "If there's something out there, we want to help stop it." Arden felt something shift in her chest. These weren't people following orders. They were people who chose to stand beside her. "All right," she said. "We leave at dawn." They tracked the creature for 2 days, following its trail deeper into the wilderness. The prints grew fresher, the signs of its passage more recent. Whatever this thing was, it was moving fast, and it was heading away from the pack's territory. "That's good, right?" Kira asked. "If it's leaving?" "Maybe," Arden said. "Or it's circling around. Predators do that. Test the defenses before they strike." "Comforting," Sarah muttered. They made camp on the second night in a small clearing. Finn and Sarah took first watch while the others rested. Arden lay beside the fire, staring up at the stars. Ronan was a warm presence beside her, his breathing steady. "You awake?" he murmured. "Yeah." "Nervous?" "A little." "Me too." They lay in silence for a while. "Ronan?" Arden said quietly. "Yeah?" "Thank you for coming with me, for all of this." "You don't have to thank me." "I know, but I want to." He turned his head to look at her, and even in the dim firelight she could see the warmth in his eyes. "We're in this together. Always." Arden reached for his hand, and he took it without hesitation. They found the creature on the third day. It wasn't like the Riftwalker. This thing was flesh and blood, a massive predator that looked like a cross between a bear and a wolf, with matted fur and eyes that glowed faintly in the shadows. It was feeding on a deer carcass when they spotted it. "That's huge," Kira whispered. "And alone," Finn added. "No pack, no cubs, just a lone hunter." "Can we take it?" Sarah asked. Arden assessed the creature carefully. It was big, but it was also old. She could see the limp in its gait, the scars covering its body. A veteran predator, past its prime, pushed out of its own territory and looking for easier prey. "We can take it," she said, "but we need to be smart. Finn, Sarah, you flank it from the sides. Kira, stay back and watch for an opening. Ronan and I will draw its attention." "You sure about this?" Ronan asked. "No, but we're doing it anyway." They moved into position. Arden stepped into the clearing, making herself visible. The creature's head snapped up. It saw her, and its lips pulled back in a snarl. "Hey!" Arden called. "Over here!" The creature charged. Arden raised her hands, summoning light. It came easier than it had in weeks, bright and fierce, and she shaped it into a barrier between her and the creature. The predator slammed into the light and bounced back, confused. Finn and Sarah struck from the sides, their blades flashing. The creature roared and turned, swiping at them with massive claws. Ronan attacked from behind, his own blade finding soft flesh. The creature howled and spun, and for a moment chaos reigned. But Arden kept the light steady, directing her team, calling out warnings, keeping everyone alive. And slowly, the creature weakened. It took 10 minutes. Maybe less. But when it finally fell, collapsing in a heap of blood and fur, the silence that followed felt like victory. "We did it," Kira breathed. Arden lowered her hands, the light fading. "Yeah, we did." They returned to the pack 3 days later, dragging proof of their kill. The settlement turned out to greet them, and when they saw the creature's pelt, massive and undeniable, the cheers were deafening. Garrick met them in the square, his expression unreadable. You were right. I was wrong. It happens, Arden said. Not to me. Not often. He smiled faintly. But I'm learning. That night, the pack held another gathering. But this time, when Garrick called Arden forward, she didn't hesitate. I'll take the council seat, she said, on one condition. Name it. We listened to everyone. Not just the strong, not just the loud. Everyone. Because the quietest voices are sometimes the ones that matter most. Garrick extended his hand. Deal. Arden shook it, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged. The council chamber was smaller than Arden expected, a circular room with a heavy wooden table at its center and 6 chairs arranged around it. Morning light streamed through narrow windows, casting long shadows across the worn floorboards. Arden stood in the doorway, her hand resting on the frame, suddenly unsure. You coming in or planning to stand there all day? Garrick's voice carried from inside. She stepped through. 5 faces turned toward her. Garrick, 3 elders she vaguely recognized, and Marcus, who'd apparently earned his seat through sheer stubbornness and a talent for organization. Arden, Garrick said, gesturing to the empty 6th chair. Welcome. She sat. The chair felt too large, too formal, like it belonged to someone else. We're here to discuss the winter preparations, Garrick began. Food stores, shelter repairs, patrol schedules, standard planning, but I want everyone's input. The meeting proceeded. Marcus presented inventory numbers. One of the elders, a stern woman named Helena, outlined repair priorities. Another elder, Thomas, suggested adjustments to the hunting rotation. Arden listened, taking it all in. These weren't dramatic decisions. They were practical, mundane, the kind of work that kept a pack alive through harsh months. Arden? Garrick's voice pulled her attention back. You've been quiet. Thoughts? She hesitated. About what? Any of it. All of it. You're on this council to have a voice. Use it. Arden glanced around the table. Everyone was watching, waiting. The patrol schedules, she said slowly. You're rotating the same 15 people through all the shifts, but there are others who could help. Younger wolves who want to prove themselves. People like Lena, who've been trying to contribute but keep getting overlooked. Marcus frowned. We use experienced fighters for patrols. I know, but experience isn't everything. And if you never give new people a chance, they'll never gain that experience. She has a point, Helena said. We've been relying on the same core group for years. It might be time to expand. Garrick nodded. I agree. Arden, can you work with Marcus to identify candidates, train them up? Yes. Good. Anything else? Arden took a breath. The western border. We killed one predator, but that doesn't mean the area is safe. I think we should establish a permanent watch post out there. Rotate guards through, keep eyes on the forest. That's a lot of resources, Thomas said. It's also smart, Garrick replied. We can't afford to be caught off guard again. Make it happen. The meeting continued for another hour. Arden contributed when she could, learning the rhythm of council discussions, the way decisions were made through compromise and consensus. When it finally ended, she felt exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure. Garrick caught her on the way out. You did well. I barely said anything. You said enough, and more importantly, people listened. He smiled. You belong here, Arden. I hope you're starting to believe that. The weeks that followed were the busiest of Arden's life. She threw herself into council work, training new patrol members, organizing supply runs, mediating disputes between pack members. She discovered she had a knack for listening, for finding solutions that satisfied everyone involved. People came to her with problems. Small things, mostly. Disagreements over territory, concerns about sick relatives, questions about how to handle difficult situations. And Arden helped, not because she had all the answers, but because she was willing to try. Ronan watched her transformation with quiet pride. You're good at this. At what? Leading, even when you don't think you are. They were sitting outside her new cabin, a modest structure the pack had built for her near the eastern edge of the settlement. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The first place she'd ever been able to call her own. I'm not leading, Arden said. I'm just helping. That's what leading is. She leaned against him, feeling the warmth of the bond between them. steady and strong. How are you feeling? Really? Tired, but good. Ronan laced his fingers through hers. The bond's stable. I can feel you, but it's not draining me anymore. Whatever we did, however we balanced it, it's working. That's a relief. Yeah. He paused. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? Arden considered the question. A month ago, she wouldn't have known how to answer, but now, yeah, she said, I think I am. The first snow came in early November, blanketing the territory in white. Arden stood at the western watchpost, wrapped in a heavy cloak, watching the forest breathe beneath its winter coat. The post was functional now, a small shelter with a fire pit, space for 2 guards, and a clear view of the surrounding area. Lena was on duty with her, the younger woman having proven herself capable and observant during training. It's beautiful, Lena said, gazing out at the snow-covered trees. It is, Arden agreed, and dangerous. Winter kills more people than predators ever do. That's cheerful. It's true, Arden smiled. But we're prepared. The pack's in good shape. Better than it's been in years, from what I hear. Because of you. Because of all of us. Lena was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. When you were protecting the pack before they cast you out, did you ever regret it? All those years of suffering alone? Arden thought about the question, about the exhaustion, the isolation, the constant drain on her body and spirit. Sometimes, she admitted, but I'd do it again. Because it mattered. Even if no one knew it, it still mattered. I think that's what makes you different, Lena said. You do what's right even when no one's watching. That's not special. That's just basic decency. Maybe, but most people don't have it. They finished their shift in comfortable silence. When Arden returned to the settlement, she found Ronan waiting outside her cabin with news. Mara's here, he said. From the other settlement. She wants to talk to you. Mara looked exactly the same. Sharp eyes, practical clothes, an air of someone who'd seen too much to be easily surprised. She hugged Arden fiercely. You look better. Last time I saw you, you were half dead. I got better at not dying. Good skill to have. Mara pulled back, studying her. I heard about everything. The pack, the council seat, the predator hunt. You've been busy. You could say that. They sat in Arden's cabin, tea steaming between them. Mara got straight to the point. I'm here with a proposal. The settlement wants to formalize an alliance with your pack. Trade agreements, mutual defense, shared resources during emergencies. Arden blinked. Why me? Garrick's the alpha. Garrick's not the one who saved both our communities. You are. Mara leaned forward. People remember you, Arden. They trust you. And more importantly, they know you'll do the right thing, even when it's hard. I'm just one person on a council of 6. Maybe. But you're the person we want to negotiate with. Arden looked at Ronan, who shrugged. She's not wrong. You've got a reputation now. I didn't ask for a reputation. No one ever does, Mara said. But you've got one anyway. So are you going to use it or waste it? Arden brought the proposal to the next council meeting. The discussion was heated. Marcus worried about overextending resources. Thomas questioned whether the other settlement could be trusted. Helena argued that alliances were essential for long-term survival. Garrick stayed quiet, letting the debate play out. Finally, he looked at Arden. What do you think? I think we're stronger together than apart, she said. I've seen what both communities can do. If we combine our strengths, share knowledge, support each other, we survive. And maybe we do more than survive. Maybe we thrive. And if the alliance falls apart, Marcus asked, if they betray us, then we deal with it. But I don't think they will. I know these people. They're honest. They keep their word. Garrick nodded slowly. All right. We'll formalize the alliance. Arden, you'll lead the negotiations. Me? You're the one they trust, and frankly, so do I. The negotiations took 2 weeks. Arden traveled back and forth between territories, working with Mara and the other settlement's leaders to hammer out terms. Trade routes were established. Defense protocols were agreed upon. Resource sharing arrangements were formalized. It was exhausting work, but satisfying. Watching two communities come together, building something stronger than either could achieve alone, it felt right. The alliance was officially signed on the winter solstice, beneath a sky bright with stars. Both settlements gathered for the ceremony. Garrick and Saul, the elder from the other settlement, stood together, signing the agreement while their people watched. But when the ceremony ended and people started celebrating, it was Arden they thanked. Arden they toasted. Arden whose name echoed through the cold night air. She stood at the edge of the celebration, feeling overwhelmed and uncomfortable and proud all at once. Ronan found her there. "You okay?" "I don't know. This is weird." "Being appreciated?" "Being seen?" Arden wrapped her arms around herself. "I spent so long being invisible, and now everyone's looking at me and I don't know how to handle it." "You'll figure it out. You always do." Ronan pulled her close. "And you're not alone. Remember that." She leaned into him, letting his steadiness ground her. Winter deepened, and with it came challenges. A blizzard hit in late December, trapping the pack indoors for 3 days. Food supplies ran lower than expected. A roof collapsed under the weight of snow, injuring 2 people. But the pack weathered it. The alliance held. Resources were shared. People helped each other. And through it all, Arden worked. She coordinated repairs. She managed food distribution. She made hard decisions about rationing and priorities. Some people grumbled. Some thought she was too soft, too willing to compromise. Others thought she was too harsh, too willing to make cuts. But no one questioned whether she belonged. One night, as she sat reviewing supply inventories by firelight, Garrick appeared in her doorway. "Busy?" he asked. "Always." He came in, sitting across from her. "I wanted to say something, and I wanted to say it without the council, without anyone else around." Arden looked up. "Okay. I've been alpha of this pack for 15 years, and in that time I've made a lot of decisions. Some good, some bad. But the worst decision I ever made was casting you out. Garrick, let me finish." His voice was quiet but firm. "You've proven yourself 10 times over. You've saved us, led us, made us better. And I want you to know that if anything ever happens to me, if I step down or die or just get too old to lead, I want you to take over." Arden stared at him. "What? You'd be a good alpha, better than I've been. The pack trusts you, they listen to you, and more importantly, you care about all of them. Not just the strong ones, not just the useful ones, all of them." I can't. You don't have to decide now. I'm not going anywhere yet, but think about it, because this pack needs someone like you, and I think you know it." He left before Arden could respond. She sat alone, staring at the papers in front of her, her mind reeling. Alpha. Her. Leading the pack that had thrown her away. It was absurd. Impossible. And yet, spring came slowly, reluctantly, the snow melting in fits and starts. With the thaw came new challenges. A pack from the north, aggressive, expansionist, led by an alpha named Victor, began pushing into the territory, testing boundaries. Garrick sent warnings. Victor ignored them. Tensions escalated. Skirmishes broke out along the northern border. 2 of their wolves were injured. One of Victor's scouts was killed. The council met in emergency session. "We need to respond," Marcus said. "Show strength. Make it clear we won't be pushed around." "And start a war," Helena countered. "We just recovered from near extinction. We can't afford a prolonged conflict." "So we roll over and let them take what they want?" "No one's suggesting that." Arden listened to the arguments, her mind working. "What if we don't fight?" she said finally. Everyone turned to look at her. "What if instead of fighting, we negotiate? Find out what Victor actually wants. Maybe there's a solution that doesn't involve bloodshed." "You can't negotiate with people like Victor," Marcus said. "He only respects force." "Maybe, but it's worth trying, and if it doesn't work, we can always fight later." Garrick studied her. "You want to go up there, talk to him yourself." "Yes." "That's dangerous. He could kill you." "He could, but I don't think he will. He wants something, and you don't kill the person trying to give it to you." "What if you're wrong?" Arden met his gaze. "Then I'm wrong, but I have to try." She left the next morning, taking Ronan and 3 others for backup. The journey north took 2 days. Victor's territory was harsh, rocky, barren, with thin forests and little game. No wonder they were pushing south. Victor himself was a massive man with graying hair and eyes like chips of ice. He received them in what passed for a council chamber, a drafty building with cracked walls and a floor that creaked underfoot. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "Garrick sent a woman to negotiate. Interesting choice." "Garrick didn't send me," Arden replied. "I came on my own, because I want to avoid a war neither of us can afford." Victor raised an eyebrow. "You think we can't afford it?" "I think you're desperate. Your territory is dying. Game is scarce. Your people are hungry. That's why you're pushing into ours." "Careful," Victor said softly. "I don't respond well to accusations." "It's not an accusation. It's an observation, and it's one I can help with." "How?" "My pack has an alliance with another settlement. We've established trade routes, resource sharing. If you're willing to negotiate in good faith, we can extend that alliance to include you." Victor laughed. "You think I'm going to bow to your little coalition? I think you're going to do what's best for your pack, which is accepting help instead of picking a fight you might not win." The room went silent. Victor studied her, his expression unreadable. "You've got spine, I'll give you that. I've got a practical solution. You can take it or leave it. And if I leave it, then we fight, and a lot of people die, yours and mine. But either way, your pack stays hungry." Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward. "All right, tell me about this alliance." Wasp. The negotiations took a week. Victor was stubborn, aggressive, and deeply suspicious. But he was also pragmatic. And as Arden laid out the terms, food sharing in exchange for labor, joint defense agreements, gradual integration into the broader alliance, she saw his resistance soften. "Why are you doing this?" he asked one evening, when it was just the 2 of them. "You could have let us starve, let my pack collapse, then moved into our territory without a fight, because that's not the kind of person I am, and it's not the kind of pack I represent. You're too soft to survive long in this world." "I've survived everything it's thrown at me so far." Victor smiled faintly. "Fair enough." The alliance was signed 3 days later. Victor's pack would receive food and resources in exchange for contributing labor to shared projects and honoring the alliance's defense agreements. It wasn't perfect. Trust would take time. But it was a start. When Arden returned home, the pack greeted her with cheers and celebration. Garrick met her in the square, his expression proud. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it. All of us." "No," Garrick said. "This was you. You saw a path no one else did, and you walked it." Summer came, warm and bright. The pack prospered under the alliance. Trade flourished. New friendships formed between settlements. Children from all 3 territories played together, learning each other's languages and customs. Arden continued her work on the council, mediating disputes, managing resources, building connections. But she also made time for herself, for walks in the forest with Ronan, for quiet evenings by the fire, for the simple pleasure of living without the constant weight of survival pressing down on her. One afternoon, she found herself at the Gathering Circle, the place where she'd been cast out nearly a year ago. So much had changed, the pack had healed, the alliance had grown. She'd found her place, but standing there remembering that night, she felt the echo of old pain, the humiliation, the rejection, the loneliness. "Still haunts you, doesn't it?" Arden turned. Garrick stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. "Sometimes," she admitted, "I can't take it back. What I did to you, what we all did. I know. But I can make sure it never happens again, to anyone." Garrick moved to stand beside her. "I'm stepping down, Arden, at the end of the month, and I want you to take my place." Arden's heart stuttered. "Garrick, I'm serious. You've proven yourself, not just to me, to everyone. You're the leader this pack needs. I'm not—" "Yes, you are, and you know it. You've been doing the job for months already. This just makes it official." Arden looked out at the empty circle, imagining it full of people. Her people. Looking to her for guidance, for leadership, for hope. It terrified her, and it felt right. "Okay," she said quietly. I'll do it. Garrick smiled. Good, because I already told everyone. But the transition ceremony was held on the last day of summer. The entire pack gathered, along with representatives from the allied settlements. Garrick stood in the center of the circle, Arden beside him. For 15 years, Garrick said, his voice carrying across the crowd, I've led this pack, through good times and bad, through plenty and scarcity. And I've done my best. But my best isn't enough anymore. This pack needs someone who sees beyond strength and dominance, someone who values every member, every voice, every life. He turned to Arden. Arden Vale came to us broken and was cast out broken. But she never stopped protecting us, never stopped fighting for us, even when we didn't deserve it. She's proven herself a warrior, a leader, and a protector. And so today, I step aside, and I name Arden Vale as alpha of this pack. The crowd erupted in cheers, Garrick removed the dark pelt from his shoulders, the symbol of his authority, and draped it over Arden's. The weight settled on her shoulders, heavy but bearable. Speak, Garrick said quietly. They need to hear from you. Arden stepped forward, looking out at the faces watching her. Some she knew well. Some were still strangers, but they were all hers now. I won't promise to be perfect, she said. I'll make mistakes. I'll disappoint you. But I promise to listen, to every voice, every concern, every idea, because that's what a pack is, not just the strong, not just the loud, everyone, together. She paused, letting the words settle. A year ago, I stood here and was told I didn't belong, that I was worthless, and I believed it, but I was wrong. We all have worth. We all matter. And as long as I'm alpha, no one in this pack will ever be made to feel like they don't. The cheers came again, louder this time. Arden looked across the crowd and found Ronan. He smiled, pride shining in his eyes. She smiled back. Months passed. Arden led the pack through autumn and into winter. She made decisions, mediated conflicts, strengthened alliances. She wasn't perfect. She made mistakes. Approved a trade deal that fell through, miscalculated food stores and had to scramble to compensate, failed to prevent a border dispute that nearly erupted into violence. But she learned, and she kept going. The pack thrived under her leadership, not because she was strong or powerful or infallible, but because she cared, because she listened, because she never forgot what it felt like to be overlooked. One evening, as snow fell softly outside, Arden sat with Ronan in their cabin. They'd moved in together months ago, the bond between them deepening into something neither of them had words for. You ever think about that night? Ronan asked. When they cast you out? Sometimes. Do you regret coming back? Arden thought about the question, about everything she'd endured, everything she'd gained. No, she said finally. I don't, because that night, as awful as it was, it led me here, to this. To being alpha, to being seen, to mattering, to knowing I belong. She looked at him. To you. Ronan pulled her close. You've always mattered, even when no one else saw it. I see it now, Arden said. That's what counts. They sat together, watching the snow fall, the fire crackling, the world quiet and peaceful. And for the first time in her life, Arden felt complete. Not because she was alpha, not because she'd proven herself, but because she'd finally learned the truth. She'd never been a burden. She'd always been enough. She just needed the right people and the right circumstances to show her. And now, standing on the other side of exile, she understood. Sometimes the people who cast you out do you the greatest favor, because they force you to find out who you really are and who you can become. Years later, when travelers passed through the territory and asked about the pack's alpha, they were told stories. About a woman who'd been thrown away and came back stronger. About a leader who valued the quiet voices as much as the loud ones. About an outcast who became the reason survival was possible. And when those travelers met Arden themselves, they found someone who listened more than she spoke, who led with compassion instead of force, and who never forgot where she came from. She was alpha. She was protector. She was home. And she was exactly where she was meant to be.